Hi, are you tired to struggle in the opening after first move e4 with black? I give you the receipt. In this video I will cover the accelerated dragon variation with the really rare and interesting lines for black that will help you to outsmart your opponents from the very first move and take some new wave to the chess game. My name is Pavel Martinov, I welcome you to my YouTube channel and let's build up your opening repertoire together. Let's carefully go through all variations, e4, c5, knight f3 and g6 here. And basically white has three main moves, d4, c3 and c4. The c4 move right now, it will be a transpose to the variation of d4 because after knight s6 I want to go bishop g7, so white needs to play d4, takes, and that will be the transpose to the variation that we will look. So after g6, d4, we are starting with the main line, takes. If the queen takes on d4, it's not that dangerous for us. Knight f6, e5, so some variation like this. And basically we want to go bishop g7, castle, and this position is pretty normal for black. So after cd4, knight takes d4, knight c6, and here is the main position because white needs to choose between knight c3 and c4. c4 maybe is a more dangerous idea because it's going to the Maróczy system, and if white will build up a nice Maróczy, this system counts as a better for white. You can check out the Boris Gelfand games, but I found some interesting way how to escape the main lines of Maróczy and get the position to the fresh wave. After c4, bishop g7, and for the moment, white main move is bishop e3, and here I'm recommending to go queen b6. Interesting move that looks weird at the first sight, but unfortunately for white they don't have a nice trick with the knight. Like knight s6 I can take on b2 and so on, right? If knight goes to b3 I can just return my queen to d8, and that is not the best version of Maróczy system. If knight will appear on c3 I will even think about to take and destroy the pawn structure, so that's why whites prefer to play queen d2 to protect the b2 pawn, and after knight f6 play knight c3. And here just for example the variation can be knight g4, bishop f4 d6, h3 knight f6, bishop e2, castle, bishop e6, and whites are not that good by the pieces here. The pieces placement is not the best for the Maróczy system, and still we will have the standard counterplay against the c4 pawn using all these ideas that we will even cover later on. So after queen b6, the main move for white is basically knight goes to b5. And that was in the game between Gata Kamsky and Norderbeck Abdusatorov. Abdusatorov played black this line. Queen a5 check, that is the idea. Here, knight f3. f3 is pretty forced to protect e4. Castle, queen d2, a6, knight d4, d6. The idea is the game that white are not in time to build up a very nice Maróczy structure. Takes, bishop e6. So I want to bring my rook, and I want to have the counterplay over the c4 pawn. Let's see. Castle, rook c8, b3, b5. A very typical idea in such structure. Takes. And here, to take on b5 is impossible because on bishop b5 I can take with the rook on c3 and take later on b5. Yeah, so rook fd1, bishop d7 just to protect the pawn on b7 because right now whites protected the queen, so they want to go knight takes b5. Bishop d7, rook ac1, b4, the pawn is going, we are fixing the structure, and definitely we are having the counterplay. Knight f4 pretty forced, other way we will take the pawn on a2, takes, queen a4, bishop c4, and basically here a nice tactics, bishop h6. The idea is that after queen takes h6, black has a rook takes c4, and the d1 rooks is hanging for the moment. So Kamsky tried to play bishop takes f7, but after king g7, his position is better. I mean, like the position of Abdusatorov, because we protected the bishop on h6. Takes, and after f4, queen a7, just because it's the double attack, and we will take the bishop next move, white decided to resign. So queen b6 looks like an interesting thing that can outsmart your opponent and bring him fresh way in the position. Let's go to the next line. Next line in this position, to play knight c2 with white, just to avoid this queen b6 tricks. But the knight appears on c2 too early. So we can even go to the main lines like knight f6 and so on, but I found an interesting plan, just using the features. d6. And we want to go as soon as possible bishop e6, rook c8, knight f5. We are saving the knight on f8 just in case our bishop from g7 will be opened and make some pressure on the queen side. Let's see some variations. Bishop e2, bishop e6, castle, rook c8, knight c3. If here knight c3, I can go knight f5, knight f3, for example, takes. And here, like, yeah, we can speak about some complicated position. The pawn amount is equal, but the position is really complicated. So after rook c8, maybe the best one is to go knight f3 here to protect before. But again, the white pieces, they are not doing the best ways in this situation. Knight f6, knight c3, knight f5, right? So I'm doing the straight because like b3 is not, it's not a good move. I can even take on e4, I think, to take the rook on a1. So that's why queen a4 to protect c4, knight d7. And some variation can be like this, for example. We are going to some kind of this position. The knight will be replaced to c4. We are speaking about the counterplay for black. And again, the point is that with this plan of doing the fast attack, quick attack on the queen side, the c4 pawn, you can shock your opponent and gain some opening advantage. So we covered the main ideas after the c4 Maróczy, and let's move to the classical way if white wants to transfer the position to the classical dragon lines. So here white can play knight c3, bishop g7, bishop e3 with the classical dragon play. So also can be the variation of knight b3, but here the position is pretty soft, like castle, castle, d6, bishop g5, bishop e6, king h1, because white wants to play f4, but they want to escape from this diagonal just to avoid any checks. Some position can be like this, like rook c8, for example, f5, here b5. That is really complicated and interesting to play for the both sides. So after bishop g7, that's why the main is bishop e3, still trying to go to the dragon, knight f6, bishop c4, and here castle. And the point of this position, the difference with the dragon, that the pawn is still on d7, is not on d6. And we are saving in some variations the possibility to play d5. Like for example, if white will go here with bishop b3, yeah, like we are going here d6, f3. It seems like a normal way for the dragon, but we're doing some another plan because white's waited a bit of the time. Bishop d7, queen d2, takes, and b5. So in here, if we will go with this pawn races, we can see that here we can count on some counterplay on the queen side, so the position is still complicated. If white will turn the plans and after b5 try to play a4 ideas, we can lead to some position like this that is also playable for black and pretty interesting. So after castle, what also can be the move? The move can be f3, for example, right? Queen b6. That is my idea. So I'm not turning to the main lines of dragon like d6, queen d2 will be the transpose. I'm going queen b6 using the feature that the bishop is hanging for the moment. He is not protected from the queen. So bishop b3 to cover the b2 pawn. Knight e4. Here the tactics come up. Knight d5 is the best for white. And here can be the variation like this. Queen a5. Here it's pretty forced, everything. Check here. And the position like this. So it's complicated, and for the natural dragon lovers who wants to put the king to the long side, for white I mean, I think that it can be pretty uncomfortable to play. So, and as I said that we are saving d5 at the moment, so for example, after some other moves, like for example, if here white's playing bishop e2, we can go castle, castle, and play d5 in one moment. And here we are going to equalize the position like this. Yeah, right, so it's pretty forced. c3, because on bishop c6 I will go still rook b8. c3, rook b8, like queen c1 to protect b2, c5, and that is an equal position. Black always can count on the counterplay on the b line, yeah. So that's why d5 is also the idea that we are saving. So basically we covered the main lines of knight c3. You can outsmart your opponent and avoid main lines of the dragon and put some fresh way into the game against your opponent. Let's move to see other variations. The other variation here is c3. And basically, if white didn't play the c3 on the move 2, seems that maybe they won't play the c3 on the move 3. But that's opportunity I see quite dangerous for black. I think like the main line is still bishop g7, but I prefer to play d5. For example, if we can have some complicated position like this, it will be transposed to the some French pawn structure with a real complicated position. The queen b5 move just preventing the castle. So I mean that looks interesting for both sides. So after d5, the main line for white is to take on d5, take d4, bishop g7, and here is a lot of variations. The aggressive one is knight f3, cd4, knight b5, for example, trying to outsmart with the knight c7. We need to protect, knight d4, and some position like this can appear in the game that is basically round equal because we are able to trade the queens. So returning back after the queen d5, d4, bishop g7, bishop e2 is the main line for white, takes, knight f6, knight c3, queen d6. So we have this typical pawn structure with the isolated pawn, but our queen is a bit hanging on the moment. White can take some tempos on this queen, and if we will fix the position and finish the development because of our nice bishop on g7, we definitely will get an advantage with black. But the point is that we need to finish the development. Castle, castle, bishop e3, for example, knight c6, a3, bishop e6, rook c1, rook c8. So that is a kind of a normal position for black, where they can outplay their opponent completely. And basically, that's what I wanted to say about this variation. So you can take this and use, especially if you don't have many time to prepare the opening stuff. At least you will shock your opponent and press some new idea to the chess game. And good luck. Good luck. Stay to my channel. Let's learn chess together. Goodbye.